Hey, 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 how you doing? I want to go ahead and welcome everybody. Welcome, welcome. I'm waiting for everybody to come in. All right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to Real Talk Recovery. I am your host, Miss Mo. Yes, this is where we have real conversations with real life experience. Today is a great day. It is July 26, 2025. All right. And I want to go ahead and really touch bases on the fact that I want to thank everybody that's been supporting me, all of my followers, everyone that's been watching over the last year. I really appreciate everyone supporting all of the guest speakers on this podcast show. This is really touching for all of us. Okay, so let's go ahead and get to it. Let's talk about the episode, and I'm going to go ahead and bring in our guest speaker. Okay, y'all, this episode is quite touching. The art of holding space. All right. This is an episode where we're going to really touch bases on the inside of human trafficking, exploring how to create emotional self inclusive spaces and peer support, set healthy boundaries, and practice trauma informed care. Inspiring look at turning life experience into healing and hope. Today is a great day because we have a guest speaker. Um, I'm completely ecstatic by her. Rena Williams is a dedicated peer who is honorable, has honorable lived experience, fuels her mission to create safer, more inclusive spaces for healing, carrying the bold and urgent message of end human trafficking. She stands at the front line as both a survivor and advocate, using her journey to bring hope and accountability to the work we do in recovery. Rena represents what it means to transform pain into purpose, offering not only guidance on emotional safety and boundaries, but also living testament that recovery and justice can walk hand in hand. We're excited to dive into this conversation with Rena, I call her Renee, but Rena is the correct pronunciation of her name, exploring how we can all do better in holding space for ourselves, for our peers, and those whose voices often go unheard. Y'all, welcome to the show, Miss Rena Williams.
Oh, thank you. You said Rena, right?
Yes,
I was laughing.
I
Hi,
know.
everybody. I'm so happy to be here. I'm nervous. I don't know if I want to keep my camera on because I keep moving around. I do that. Is
I,
that okay though?
that's fine. That is
Okay,
fine.
great. Ooh, I got the ADHD.
Oh, okay. Hello. That part right here. I'm
Woo.
so happy that you came on. Can you tell us a little bit about just a quick overview of your recovery and what it looks like today?
Oh, wow. So I'm going on 13 years. I have 13 years, October 1st. I got clean in 2012. And my recovery it stems back from 1993, when I got addicted to crack cocaine. And Portland was really running rapid, with the crack here. And so I ended up going to treatment for that. I did lose my children, so I fought hard to get them back because it's not the government's job to take care of my children. And so then I ended up getting married, and then I found out that alcohol was my drug of choice. And so I stayed married for about 15 years. I met him in recovery. And then after all my children were married and off to college, I just said I didn't want to die an alcoholic, drinking wine every night. So I left, and I left him in 2011, and then I got sober like 2 months later in 2012, October. And I've been sober since as a single woman.
Wow.
And I kind of like it.
Amazing.
Yeah.
That's an amazing. I hear you say that it was your children that motivated you to really take that pivot into, sobriety or, moving forward in your recovery of healing.
Yeah, yeah. I think with the alcohol, like being married, and having five kids in the house. He had three, I had two, when we got him back, and they all came up from California. And my daughters used to tell me, "Mom, you would be a good counselor. You're really good, with talking to young women, And I didn't really see that because my daughter gave me hell, shoot. So I didn't really see it at the time. But I just knew I didn't want to die with a bad liver,
Mhm.
and I'm very proud of where my children are today, as far as the careers and the choices, that they're making right now. And even if they did mess up, they just get right back up like I did.
Yeah.
And so it's definitely been a journey, and it still is at almost 13 years,
Wow.
'cause there's behaviors, there's emotions, there's the fight and polite syndrome that I like to do, and I sometimes I don't realize I'm doing it. And the compulsive behavior, I'm trying not to shop like I used to and eat sugar, but it's hard. So yeah, it's a process. And
Yeah.
and I do want to say too that like we come from broken homes, so it's like sometimes when you start out doing the behavior, you don't realize it, like that whole dynamic as a young person as doing wrong. You don't see that. And
Mm.
sometimes we don't care if we go to jail. And I got really deep into the prostitution too, and it led into my recovery the first time. So, yeah, it's a journey.
Yeah. I completely agree with you. I can relate to, the emotional ups and downs, the emotional roller coasters, because, in our addiction, for me, my addiction, I've only been sober for 4 years. However, I've experienced all the feelings that I've suppressed down deep inside of me for the last 20 years, 25 years. You know what I'm saying? So, all that stuff do come up, and we have to learn to use the tools in recovery, in our
Yeah.
counseling sessions, from talking to our sponsors, if you are working a 12-step program, to, support systems and so forth, and even taking the medication that come along with that.
Right,
And,
right.
and you mentioned prostitution, and this is very common for us addicts who is out on the street, and we are relying on ourselves to support our habits. And usually prostitution is one of those things. I am, of
Mhm.
course, I was a member of the sex trafficking squad, sex work team,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it. You know what I mean? The exotical dancers is what we frame it in the beginning. Tell me about that journey, that moment when, how long was you in that journey, and when did you kind of like decide to leap out of it, or when did you know it was something that you didn't want to do anymore?
So I'm a little bit older, so mine was in the 80s. So like 1980, MLK was Union Avenue. So I came over here a few times. I got into prostitution, and the first time I did it, I think the first time I actually sexually exploited myself was there was a little cafe downtown Portland, and all of us young people used to go down there after the club. It was a 24-hour club on 6th Street where the old bus station, Greyhound station, was right there on the bus mall. Now that was a long time ago. So anyway, I turned a date with the guy, and it just seemed so easy, and it was so quick, and it felt like, when I look back, it felt like it was something that I could control, and it felt fucking good, because I felt like, okay, I like this. And then, because it was so easy.
Yeah.
And so then I was staying with my aunt, bless her heart, and she, I just say, here's some money for, my part of the rent, whatever. And she just smiled like, what the hell? So to me, that was like, letting me say, how do I say it? Like thinking that it's
Justify it.
okay.
It's like a
Yeah,
justification. That's how we, yeah,
right,
I
right.
agree.
That's
Yeah. Oh, well, I'm
so,
giving back. I'm taking the negative
yeah.
and turning to a positive.
Who don't like money? So
Exactly.
so I just started doing it more and more, and I was downtown mostly, and all the old hotels that are turned into CCC hotels. I stayed in some of those. The Biltmore, there's one down there now. The Justice Center is built on that property or that land. And finally, I got arrested a couple of times, and then the third time I got arrested was at the Hilton Hotel. They did a sting, and I got 3 counts of prostitution, promoting prostitution, which was called pimping, and then what was the other one? Less than an ounce of marijuana. I had drugs, and I got in trouble for that. But I was 18, and the girl that was with me was 17.
Wow.
So so it was kind of humiliating, like the whole top floor in the Hilton was full of young people that had been arrested, for this. And they had the paddy wagon back then. Now, girl, that was the most humiliating thing, having black high heels on and a black hat, like I had it going on, getting up in the damn paddy wagon. Shoot. But when I look back, I I'm glad that that happened. I almost went to prison. They tried to give me 2 years, and I ended up going to Job Corps. And Job Corps slowed me down, but not all the way. So with Job Corps, I on the weekends I would go home. I have 4 regulars, and they call my payphone and at the Job Corps, and I would just meet them on the weekend, and I'd come back with money and my little weed, my little joints, and it was so addicting, besides the drugs, and I couldn't stop.
Yeah.
And then I think that I'd normalized it by then, I'm sure, you
Oh,
know.
for sure. Oh, for sure. Yeah, I can definitely
So
relate to that. I mean, it's so easy to fall into that trap for me. I mean, it was just me as simple as me going to the store, and then boom, I
yeah,
run into somebody
right,
that does the same drug I do, or is won't judge me for doing the drug that I do, or you know what I'm saying? And then I already had
yeah,
that addiction, that sex addiction anyway. So it's like,
right,
oh, okay, I get the sex and I get the money on top of walking away and be able to buy my drugs. Yes, you know what I'm saying?
yeah,
It was like the biggest promo of all time, for a woman of a sex addiction, at least, or a person of a sex
yeah,
addiction. Um,
right.
exact. That's
And
what it boils down to. Yeah.
but I did have a pimp then too, and he came to Job Corps because I said I was leaving, and he brought a gun out there, and everybody hit the floor, and I was so embarrassed. Shoot, I wasn't scared. I was pissed off. I was embarrassed. And then he tried it again, to have somebody pick me up, and when I look back now, I, my self esteem was so low that I think that he would have killed me. I know he would have. And here I am trying to be hard. So that I ended up meeting my daughter's father in Job Corps. Eventually, we got married and had her, but it didn't stop me because I still have my regulars like downtown, right there on Broadway and Burnside, and
Yeah.
a business owner, and I still couldn't stop. Oh, I didn't want to stop. You
Mm.
know, I didn't like anybody telling me what to do either. Shoot.
So
So
from what I'm understanding here, from what I'm hearing, it's like kind of like prostitution itself, or sex trafficking, or I mean, what would you consider if it's like an addiction form? If prostitution is like addicting, would that be labeled as prostitution?
yeah, yeah,
When you're
sex worker.
prostitution and you're in prostitution, that means, hey, I'm addicted to having sex for monetary exchange.
I think I was addicted to money
Okay,
too,
okay,
because
okay.
yeah, because the money. was so easy, and it was nice because I didn't do illicit drugs then. I
Okay.
did, like, a little weed and drank wine, whatever. But when I got into the crack, and I had 2 years clean. I I started going back to church. I started doing meetings, and I was at, I lived right down the street from the very first Miracles Club, which is, recovery. And one day I went there on a Sunday right after church, and I just had a breakdown, and I said, this ain't right. This is supposed to be a spiritual, thing. We pray before the meeting, we pray after. And so I said, you know what, I'm gonna find out where I can go to get help for the prostitution too. And I went to a program that doesn't exist anymore, and they helped a lot of women in recovery, all genders,
Wow. I
actually.
love it. Amazing.
Yeah. And I
That is
and I'm
something.
not afraid to share that. I'm very proud that I made that decision. Police didn't, the judge didn't, that nobody else did but me. And I'm really grateful that that did happen.
Wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Your story is it's so rich. There's so much more to it. Have you ever considered writing a book about what you've
I
been
already
through?
did. I already did. It's been out for a while. I wrote a book. It's called the Life with Mobius Syndrome,
Mhm.
and Rena Williams. And so I named it that. I didn't know what to name it. I just, I didn't. There's so many books that might say sex trafficking or, streetwalker, whatever. And the more I started writing, I couldn't figure out what I wanted to name it. And I was born with a birth defect where I have lack of muscle tissues in my face. And so I got bullied a lot, besides being molested and, physically abused and all that.
Right.
And so it was hard, surviving that, because I look at kids nowadays, they don't survive, they end up taking guns in the schools, the ones that have been bullied. And so,
Yeah.
so I wanted to save somebody's life by writing that book and having, addressing so many different areas of my life, not just the sex trafficking addiction, but the bullying too, along with, the other stuff that I went through. But
Amazing.
yeah,
Yeah,
but
that's something. Yeah.
I do want to say this too. I'm sorry to interrupt, but I did it too because I just feel like that it could save somebody's life, like that was
Yeah.
the most important thing for me to do that book.
Yeah. Oh
But
yeah.
I'll have to send it to you, a picture of
Yeah,
it.
please do.
It's on Lulu.
I
Yeah.
would love it. I absolutely love to read your book. I've heard something about you writing. I think at the time when we first kind of crossed paths, you were just
Mhm.
finished publishing it or you were writing it, something like that. And so I
Yeah,
wanted to kind of double back on that and kind of check to see if it's published.
it is. Yeah, it's $11 at Lulu. You can
Very
buy it at
good.
Lulu.
And we're going to
Yeah.
make sure we give you, hey, Big Steppers, I want to let y'all know that we're going to make sure we give all that information to you in the description of the Podbean and the YouTube channel. Now, let's go ahead and just take a quick break and show some recognition to the folks who really support us here at Real Talk Recovery. We want to go ahead and show some love to Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration. Yes, this is a team, a U.S. government website that you can go to. It's called SAMHSA, but you can spell it SAMHSA.gov. This is a space where you can go and receive all sorts of information from crisis lines to help and support substance use information, mental health assistance, even communities and libraries of different ebooks and articles you can read about any type of subject that you would want to learn more about. When I want to go ahead and shed some light, guys, I want to shed some light on the um, coming soon Recovery Month digital tool. Okay. Right now, SAMHSA has a spotlight on the National Recovery Month. All right. This is the toolkit that will include detailed messaging, social media shareables to promote awareness, engage with audience, and show support. So they're now going to have an actual social media space where you can actually interact with a live person 24 hours a day. We have a lot of different crises as far as suicide crisis line. If you know anyone that is dealing with suicidal thoughts or is thinking of unaliving themselves or others, please refer them to call 988. No need to call 911. Call 988. But if things get out of hand, don't be afraid to call 911. Okay? Thank y'all so much. Once again, thank you for supporting substance abuse and mental health services and administration. Let's go ahead and get back to the main topic here, which is now we're going to talk about peer support with Rena Williams. Okay, Rena. Now, the Big Steppers got some questions for us. Based on the topics that was assigned, I want to go ahead and give you the first topic here. First topic is creating emotionally safe environments and peer support. Now, I know that you worked with a lot of different people that dealt with human trafficking, trying to run from their human trafficker and trying to emerge out of sex work. One of the Big Steppers asked, can you share a moment where holding space helped someone share something they had kept hidden for years?
Um, Gosh, there's
Can
so
you,
many different scenarios, that people have had, young women and even not even sex trafficking, just labor trafficking, domestic, you know, I don't know. There's just so many. But I do want to say, like, the safe, there wasn't enough in the 80s and 90s, there wasn't enough places for sex workers to go. They would just let them out of jail and that's it. And in the 90s also before they ran this oh, what do you call it? It's like they changed the policy or whatever with the court system because they were letting they weren't serving 16 to 18 years old and they were being like kind of like prosecuted as adults and not really getting services like they would as a child, but to me they still were a child. So I think that's always been the kind of like barrier that's happened over the years to where we got a lot of sex, the strip clubs and stuff like that here, but there's not enough people, advocates, or shelters for specifically for sex workers. And like and for me, I treated each person that would come to me or in my group, and they would have a different story. So you can't treat everybody the same, and you really have to think. It's like, like they say, person centered, when you're working with somebody and find them the right, whether it's out of state, do you have anywhere to go? Or helping somebody get their teenage daughter back, like she's 17, she's in Miami, and I looked at her and right away I said, well, you got DHS, right? And she said, yeah. I said, well, they'll bring her home. If you know where she is, they'll bring her home
oh,
because she
look.
wanted to come home, and she came home. And that was such a simple thing, it just like
Wow.
came natural.
Yeah.
And and I'm grateful for that. But then there are stories where the girl calls me, called the safety, gave the victim my number, another level at the time when I was doing my programs, and she had a children, so she couldn't leave her kids. She was living in the house, and another girl. They both had children by the same man that was promoting, so
Wow.
pimping them, whatever.
Right.
And so
Which is
she said,
which
"I
is
have to go
common.
back home."
Which is pretty common to let y'all
Yeah,
know. That's that type of thing where a pimp would have children with multiple women in one family, one household. Right.
they'd lock them. That's how you lock them in. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
There was a time when, like it wasn't so rapid, but when they found out they could make money, most pimps or whatever gender they are, they could make money quicker than selling drugs, and you don't have to stand on a corner and do this. You can just stay at home and hide behind the scene and make money.
Mhm.
And I've seen that a lot. Yeah.
Yeah,
So
that's pretty deep. And I thank you so much for sharing that because we want to help, our fellow sex workers in our communities as peers. We just don't know how to approach them. You know what I mean? We don't know how to approach the situation. And then it's like if we do, it's kind of it's a dangerous scene, is all we saying. It's a dangerous situation. And in the midst
it
of that,
is.
you
It's
know,
it's the
it's
second
physically
largest
dangerous, it's
organized
mentally
crime.
dangerous, it's emotionally dangerous for everyone that's around that person. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. 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 Because oh my God, there's so many stories I could tell.
Is there
You
some
know.
questions? Is there like maybe a few questions that you is required to ask a sex worker who's ready to emerge that lifestyle, ready to leave that lifestyle, ready to make that change? Is there some questions you want to ask that's going to really pinpoint to verify if they're really serious or not? Like, are they that question that you ask to know, depending on how they answer it, no, let you know and tells you, okay, this
Yeah.
person's serious. Yes, I want to move forward. Versus, no, they're not that serious. What are those questions that you
I
use?
think that one thing I want to say is I think anybody that's asking me that is serious, but everybody has their own trauma and they ain't ready.
Okay.
But when they are serious, I just look at the resources, look at housing, if they have family members that are out of state, or or go stay with their sister or whoever that happens. And then there's some that, like they disconnect with that person to enough to where when they are in my group, when they used to be in my group, they would go back to school and they just start their life over. And I didn't realize how much I helped, people like as far as the resources about going back to school and childcare, just validating what they're doing.
Okay.
Even if,
That makes sense.
even, yeah. And yeah, this one girl gave me a dozen of roses. I said, "You don't have to give me that." And I was just like, "Thank you." Because she was so grateful that, her life changed.
So I'm hearing you say basically, no matter what, if they're asking and reaching out, they are serious. So they
Yes,
don't
they
need to.
are.
It ain't like us addicts on the drug tip, where we're kind of
Because
like just doing
that's
it for
right.
whatever gain. But when a person that's being human trafficked comes to you, automatically give them what they need immediately because they're gonna make it happen. Is what you're saying? Like no
Right,
matter what.
yeah.
Okay.
Like during COVID, I went downtown, did outreach, and there was this young, pretty little black girl. She was sitting on, and I knew she was young. She was sitting on the sidewalk, and she said hi. I said, "Hey, how are you?" And then I gave her my card, and she looked at me real serious, and she goes, "Thank you." And that's
Mm,
enough right there. Like to bring it in.
yeah.
And
Yeah.
I think it's about the delivery, how we deliver. Like if you already got experienced in it, and if you're a mentor, that's a plus. you know,
Yeah.
but yeah, that's a plus. But there is like I don't know. One thing about addicts and people that have lived in the streets or whatever, they ain't stupid. They can read right through people. That's a big trust. There's a lot of trust, that they have. They don't trust. I think I said that wrong. They don't trust.
They don't
They
have
have
trust
trust issues.
issues. Yeah, they
Yeah.
that's the how they get groomed. They get groomed to not trust.
Yeah.
That's how I was. I
Yeah.
mean, I was groomed to not trust nobody. And you know what I'm saying. My situation was a tad bit different, but that's just the way it is in that type of sector of the lifestyle. You know what I'm saying? In the underground world. You know.
Yeah, and I think that we take that into recovery too at times,
Yeah.
like even me being married twice, I'll still be like kind of like not trusting or don't want to be bothered, if somebody's trying to talk to me, because it's so much, it's just hard because I'm not very good with relationships. I say that, but I've been married twice, but still, I try to be, have some boundaries today because I didn't have them back then.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's amazing. We do only have 10 more minutes on the Zoom. We're going to go ahead and shout out one more supporter here. We want to go ahead and shout out Oregon Health Authority. Thank you so much, Oregon Health Authority, for supporting Real Talk Recovery, supporting all the peers that's in the state of Oregon. In Oregon Health Authority has a website, oregon.gov. Okay, y'all can go here and get pretty much of any information you want. If you're looking for programs and services, or health plans, okay, licensed to get certified as being a peer support specialist, all right, as well as even public health information and to look for jobs. You can do it here. One of the main things that most people have been lagging and been really truly having problems with getting information on is like public records. So this is a space where you can actually get your public records to get the documents that you need for you to get to certain situations or get things taken care of in your own personal life. Okay. So once again, Oregon.gov, y'all. Thank y'all so much. All right, Renee. We're going to go ahead and take a quick
Rena.
pause. And if you want to go ahead and merge over to Podbean, that would be amazing. Y'all, for all the people that's on in the YouTube world, give it up for Renee. We're going to go ahead and put all of her book information, her as an author, all her bio into the description of this particular video. Thank y'all so much. God bless.
Okay. Are we done?
Okay,
Uh-oh.
so we'll